Everything is blocked right now from 183rd to I-80. Farther north, it's 20 minutes, I-80 to the merge. Outbound, there's a rollover reported at the exit Sibley. Station 4, still running 18 minutes, 80-94 to the merge. The Ryan is 34 minutes, 95th to downtown. Eden's 19 minutes, Lake Cook to the junction. Kennedy, 58 minutes, O'Hare to downtown. 31 from Montrose, 23 in the Express. Eisenhower, 46 minutes, 390 to downtown. Stevenson, 46 minutes, 355. Northbound Tri-State delays are past Cicero to 75th, Plainfield Road to 47th, and the Reagan Tollway to the Grand Avenue Curve. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Clouds and sunshine today. Windy and chilly, though. High 32. Currently 25. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're coming to you live from RM Services in Schaumburg. We're on our AM 560 Signature Bank Business Tour, week 3, and talk about the economic impacts of coronavirus. Obviously, we're all familiar with the market sell-off the last 3 days. This piece from Kevin Marsh in the Wall Street Journal, former member of the Federal Reserve Board, now a visiting fellow in economics at Stanford. He suggests that the Fed should get involved at this juncture. He argues in his piece the Fed should announce a quarter point interest rate cut and make clear it's open-minded about further action. The Fed should also encourage other central banks to take appropriate simultaneous action to loosen monetary policy in their jurisdictions. Global action would help make the most of scarce policy ammunition. And he cites no less than authority than Milton Friedman in arguing for this looser monetary policy, citing Friedman's utterance 50 years ago that monetary policy can contribute to offsetting major disturbances in the economic system arising from other sources. He compares the need to do something now to the action Bernanke took at the depths of the Great Recession. And he goes on to say, Fed leaders call the current ostensibly low level of inflation the greatest challenge for this generation of monetary policymakers. I disagree. An exogenous, uncertain global economic shock is a far bigger and more pressing challenge and a far more compelling rationale for policy action, and that's, of course, what he categorizes coronavirus to be. For more on this topic and a response to that call for an interest rate cut from the Fed, we're pleased to be joined by Jim Iourio, who is the proprietor of Brandt's in Palatine, best hamburger in Chicagoland, in the world.
In the world.
Arguably. That's what I hear. And also a CNBC contributor. Yeah. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you say to Kevin Marsh's proposed quarter-point rate cut?
I reluctantly and I sadly agree. And the reason it's sad and reluctant is because monetary policy has been too loose for too long. You can trace that back to 30 years. And one of the reasons that I'm against that all the time is because when situations like this arise, you want to have plenty of ammunition to fight it. It's irritating to me that over the last, probably couple years, when it seems like things were heating up very good, they let monetary policy stay so dovish. And when you hear James Bullard and Jay Powell speak, and they speak about not being able to control, to get some inflation, and that frustrates the heck out of them, and they really want that to happen. I understand, but I think they're just measuring it wrong, and I think they have made mistakes before, but I agree with Kevin Marsh.
Do you think President Trump addressing the nation last night is going to help the markets rebound today?
I don't. Well, it's not. It's certainly not already. I mean, we've already hit the down 10% mark for the entire correction. So we were down about 2% a second ago, but now we're starting to bounce back. So no, I don't think. I think this is a great unknown. and I think Donald Trump doesn't have that kind of power to ease the market's worries. Now, there's something I'd like to throw in here, too. In 2009, when H1N1 virus hit, 1 in 6 Americans got it and 17,000 people died. It didn't have a big market impact because it was 2009, and we had certainly had bigger fish to fry at the time, considering we were in the absolute throes of the financial crisis and the stock market was at the lows. So nobody really thought of it in terms of recessionary because we were already there. So the fact that this hits at a time where people were not really assessing risk properly in the market and in the economy as a whole, it has a bigger impact. Sorry if I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, but that also speaks to people looking for a reason to get out and capture the profits that they have earned, right? And so this provides the reason, and so it takes longer for some people to get out than other people. So you see this massive 2-day sell-off.
And that's the anatomy of a correction, because realistically what it is it begins with a very valid reason, and this is a hugely valid reason, but then it's different levels of money saying, oh, man, I have too much risk now. I was supposed to have rebalanced at the end of the year, but everything was going so great that I didn't. And then the rebalancing happened, and selling begets selling. So at this point in time now, the selling that we're seeing, I don't think is all that related as much now to the macroeconomic impact of the coronavirus as it is to reshuffling and reassessing risk, and that's the next leg of the correction.
So, but I mean, when we look at other sell-offs inspired by global virus emergencies over the last 20 years, what you see is the market having a significant downturn, but you look 6 months and a year out, and you see you see the rebound. And I'm wondering if you think we're near a washout and a rebound is in the offing, or if you think you're going to see a 20-25% market correction for other reasons.
I don't, and the reason I don't is a couple. Our age, mine and yours, is that we've seen two things over the last 25 years that have been devastating in markets: the tech stock and the real estate. And those were both characterized by these unbelievable buildups that filtered their way down to even mom and pops of leverage buying of assets. So, take the real estate one. I don't see that. I see a lot of leverage in buying assets, but it's broadly spread across a lot of different asset classes. And the underlying situation in our country still was very, very good. I don't know how the economic impact is going to fall out, and neither is anyone else, by the way. So I personally think 10% is what we were gunning for. I think 3,000 on the S&P is where I'm going to start buying again. 3,000 is, we're only 50 handles away from that in the S&P right now, and that's where I'm going to start looking to be long. These kind of things, and I know Donald Trump said it, and a lot of people made fun of him, in that when everyone's inside in the depths of winter, these things seem a lot worse than they are, and they are a lot worse. And we've seen in Singapore, at first it seemed like it was going to be a big deal, and then because of the weather, it seems like it's going to be less of a deal. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but that's what it seems like to me, and that's what my money's going to be.
Well, what advice would you have to those who invest in the stock market?
Well, if you're an investor, and I'm an investor as well too, and I bought small amounts in my long-term retirement accounts at down 6%. I bought more at down 8%, and I plan on buying more down 10%. Obviously the equation gets a lot more difficult if you're 75 years old. But if you're in your 50s and you got 20 years out, I know what I'm doing, and that's to me, something like this could easily be a disruption on the short and even to medium term. But I have a very difficult time believing that this isn't creating some decent buy opportunities long term for me.
Right. I mean, and it's something you said that seems to me key is just the fundamentals. Are the fundamentals of the economy relatively solid? And I say relative to the rest of the world. Is America still the tallest skyscraper in Wichita? And the answer seems to be a resounding yes. And I know the past performance is no indicator nor guarantee of future performance, but I did see some analysts pointing out that when you saw 2 days with 90% of New York Stock Exchange issues going down, which we just saw, in the past, the S&P has rallied every time 2 months later by a median of 7.6%, 1 year later by a median of 25%. So that's no guarantee that it will occur again, but it does say something about blips like this.
And I'll add something to that, too. The first month of the coronavirus fears, the stock market was rallying alongside gold, the U.S. dollar, U.S. Treasuries. The theory kind of being is if the global central banks, including the Fed, are throwing money into the system to offset the economic impact, it tends, and you use the tall skyscraper in Wichita, that's fine. I'm so tired of the cleanest shirt in the laundry or whatever people use like that, but that's a good one. What it is people go to what is the best house, and our stock market could easily jump from being this risk off, a risk asset, which is now being sold, to being somewhere where the globe's going to kind of store its money over the next few months if money's being thrown at this problem. But I mean, it hasn't happened yet. I'm going to wait for some patterns to develop before I jump on that.
So Tyler Cohen wrote about this the other day in his Bloomberg News column, and others have too, talking about the global supply chains and the delicate nature of some of these supply chains, and that could be sort of the next shoe to drop if this does metastasize in the West, the coronavirus. Is that your primary concern as well when you look at where to park your money?
Yeah, well, no question at all that's the immediate concern is the supply chain. But if it really kicks in our country too, then there's obviously a lot of different local type businesses that'll be affected by it, and could cause a recession without any question. But there's just the different levels as we go. And remember too, we are still talking about something where there's 60 cases in our country and 0 fatalities. So I believe that it probably is good for people to reassess risk. I know that markets tend to price in worst case scenarios, which I believe is what we're doing right now. But again, it's still a massive unknown.
Right, but China is the second largest economy in the world, and there's millions of people self-quarantined in their homes. They're not at work. They're not in the factories. They're not at stamping plants in Wuhan, China. And there's so many goods that are just sitting on cargo ships. Do you have any ideas or any word when they're going to start, letting them sail to San Francisco ports?
No. And every time we hear a good news, a good story like, they're planning on reopening this, 10 minutes later we hear something else, that there's more cases being reported. So again, that's just another thing that I'm sure there's going to be some experts telling you exactly what's going to happen, and guess what? I don't believe them any more than I believe anyone else. And the news, that's the real unfortunate part about having China being such an important player, is that they are historically not reliable in the news they give. So that's why, is the market pricing in worst case scenario? Yes. Is it appropriate? Yeah, maybe it is appropriate, but we won't know for a while.
This is giving industrial policy types some ammo to talk about, in a centrally planned way, almost bringing supply chains on shore so that we're not so dependent on Far Eastern countries, particularly a communist one like China. Of course, there's been some movement in supply chains throughout the trade war with the Chinese under President Trump. But what is your position with respect to those who argue that this presents prima facie evidence of the need to go in an autarchical direction?
Yeah, sure. There's definitely risks about dealing so heavily, in particular, like you said, communist-controlled countries that people. Well, I could say a lot of things, but I don't want to offend anybody. There's huge risk. Is this probably just talk that'll be right now, and then in 4 months will be forgotten, and we'll go to where the cheapest thing is? Yeah, probably. I don't believe there's going to be necessarily any real change. I mean, we're probably heading in a slightly better direction, and that started to happen with the trade talks, where we realize there's risks in being so heavily dependent on China. There's stories, intellectual property, not to get off into the weeds here too, but for years and years, my friends in the technology industry don't leave their cell phones in their hotel in China. And if we can get past that, you know what, again, I'm rambling again. This markets have got me all flustered.
Well, I'm just saying, part of where you're going, though, is how this impacts our future relationship with China, particularly as a month before this became a worldwide concern. We were fully enmeshed in projections about what Phase 2 talks would look like.
Sure, and already working through the difficulties with working through a trade partner and a partner in general like China. Does this add to that? Sure it does. Do I think, these pandemics, they pass, even the bad ones, even it could, not even saying it's going to be nothing, but months down the road, then decisions are going to be made again. And a lot of companies make them just based strictly on money. I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to change things in a huge amount. I do think it'll change things in a small amount, though, and that's helpful.
He is Jim Iourio, CNBC contributor and the proprietor of Brant's in Scenic Palatine, Illinois.
Beautiful.
Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, particularly scenic that February. Absolutely. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. See ya.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
A business needs to be built on a great foundation, one with the framework of integrity and tradition. Chapel Design Build delivers just that, providing design build and general contracting services using Butler Steel Building Systems. Their projects dot the landscape from O'Hare to DeKalb. You see their work in office and warehouse additions, recreational facilities, large-scale distribution centers, and manufacturing plants all over northern Illinois. Partnering with Butler Steel Buildings, Chapel Design Build has developed an extensive subcontractor base and valuable market knowledge to get your quality-built project completed on time and on budget, ensuring your project is a success for your business and one that you will be proud of for years to come. The goal is to build lasting relationships with their clients using buildings that last from Butler. Get started on your next building project built with Butler Steel. Visit chapeldb.com. That's Chapel D as in design, B as in build.com.
This is Dan Frio, the Mortgage Update. What if I could lower your mortgage payment and also skip 2 months all at the same time? If you're looking to refinance, you're looking for financial relief in one way or another. Lower payments, shorter term, or even debt consolidation of those high interest rate credit cards. When I structure your refinance, I also look to save you as much money in the short term as I do